sort of changed, actually, the title of today's sermon, which was going to be security, and a lot of it's still about security, but I changed it to Follow Me, because that's really what Jesus was talking about in this sermon. It was about following Him and what that looks like. Today, it's really filled with questions, and questions that I don't necessarily have answers to, and I don't expect for us to figure out answers to. More just that the questions remain with you, sort of stir you, and maybe make you ask some questions some more. Just before the reading that Rick read, in verse 19, it says that the people were divided because of Jesus' words. People were divided because of what He had been teaching and saying. They couldn't come up with a consensus. Does that sound like a lot of congregations? Denominations? Right? That's sort of what happens, is you can't agree on some meanings, and so you get different groups that branch off in different ways, and they say, this is the way we're going to do it. And so rather than living within the grayness of questions and maybe not knowing an exact answer, they wanted answers as much as possible. So that's how this lesson really began. And they get into verse 24, and the folks all around Jesus say, tell us plainly. Just tell us plainly exactly what you're trying to say. Tell us what you're trying to teach us. Tell us what to do, and we'll do it. You know, that's a very real human thing. Don't make me think about what I got to do. Tell me what to do, and I'll do it. May not make me happy, may not make you happy, but just tell me what to do, and then I'll check it off my list. So they say, Jesus, tell us plainly. Tell us plainly how to make sense out of Boston. Tell us plainly how to make sense out of a family whose son died due to meningitis and they hadn't quite caught it. Tell us plainly how to make sense for the Meglet family in Sun Prairie and for Bruce Burnside. Tell us plainly. Tell us plainly how to make sense out of the cancer or the lost job or the addiction or the anger or the lack of forgiveness or the human trafficking, the global warming. Tell us plainly. And there is no plain answer. In fact, Jesus' response is this: the works I do testify to the Father. He's not going to give us words that answer it. He says that the works that I do testify to the Father. The works that I do is going to answer that question. In the time that we are living right now, the things that we do and don't do are a direct revelation to others about our relationship with the divine. The things that we do and don't do are a direct revelation that show to others our relationship with the divine. First responders in Boston who cared less for themselves and more for others reveal to us their relationship not only with humanity, but with the divine. Because they were able to do some extraordinary human things that day. People who speak up for justice when others can't. The stuff that they are under is amazing. But what they do is a direct revelation of their relationship with God. The counselors and communities that show true compassion. It is a direct revelation to other people about their relationship with people and with God. Jesus goes on, and he talks about my sheep hearing my voice. Now, I know if you have one of these Bibles that can explain to you what all this stuff means, and it talks about sheep and shepherds, that's going to talk about, well, there's these shepherds, and they can teach their sheep how to hear their voices, and yada, yada, yada. But anybody here a shepherd? I mean, right? Unless we're talking about hanging out and doing Baba sheep songs, it's not there. So, what does that look like for us? What voice do we listen to? What if we can't understand the voice? What if the voice doesn't resonate in our hearts? How about this? What voice do you listen to? The church? Your neighbor? Your bank account? What about Jesus? Jesus goes on and he says, I know them. That's spectacular. Jesus knows us just the way we are. Knows us and loves us just the way we are, with all the stuff that we come bearing with us. And he says, I love you, I'm going to change you and transform you into somebody who can do amazing things. Because that's what it means to follow me. To be transformed in the heart so that your actions really do reveal your relationship both with me and others and God. And people will see it and their lives will be transformed. Jesus says, I know you. And I'll touch your heart and I'm going to make a difference with you. And then finally, and we're getting down towards the end here, Jesus says, follow me. Now, in the time, that made perfect sense. People would follow teachers around. You go from place to place, you follow them around where you're going to sit and have lunch, then you get taught a lesson, maybe you take a nap underneath a shade tree and you talk some more, learn some more lessons, and you move on. You do all this stuff. Well, and then this whole word of follow sort of fell out of vernacular. And now it's totally back in. The word follow is all over the place. And you may not do this, but a lot of us do. So I'm just going to lay it out there. Do you follow me on Facebook? Do you follow me on Twitter? How about LinkedIn? How about in our Google Friends? Do you follow us there? On Pinterest? That's 5 really fast. Do you follow me there? Or in addition, who do you follow? Look at your friends and the people that you follow and go through those things. We choose to follow certain people and groups on these sites. And don't think just because you don't go into Twitter or Facebook or any of those other things that you're immune to this. Because you might follow CNN. You might follow Wisconsin State Journal. You might follow NPR. You might, whatever that happens, you're following somebody. Just check which radio stations you got going on. We all follow somebody or something. But in particular, in the social media thing, which can be really, really good, and it also has some downfalls. But in the social media thing, People spend hours every day following and being followed. So what does that look like for you? If you're into social media, what does it look like? Does who you follow and what you post reflect your relationship with the divine? Or are you an awesome snarker? And like you can complain about everything. And that everything is in the toilet. Rather than being able to see God's beauty. Even on a cold, awful, windy day. We don't, Zion has a Facebook page and we Twitter and LinkedIn but it's not to be some sort of a cool church. It's to be out there for people who are looking for somebody to follow. To see where they might find God's grace and God's love. Because those things link to you. They link to experiences that we have together. And they're talked about, and they're loved. And people start to realize, this is a place where I can learn to follow something way bigger than myself. There are, generally speaking, there are positive and negative relationships and life-giving experiences and life experiences. The negative ones, we hope we can learn from and turn them into something positive. But it's the positive ones that Jesus invites us to put all of our weight into. That when we can find positive relationships, positive life-giving, not life-sapping relationships and places to be with one another, that's the place to go. Be with the positive stuff. Because in there, we see new life. In there, we can see the fact that Jesus is with us as a friend and as a brother, as well as being a Savior. When Jesus invites us to follow, it's not necessarily behind him. You can be right beside him. Or in front of him. Because sometimes the only way that other people will get to learn about Jesus and experience his love is through you as the filter. Get it?